In recent weeks, major concerns have been raised concerning the Public Services Card, which the government has been rolling out for a number of years. It was revealed that a woman in her 70s had been unable to collect her pension due to her not having a card. I spoke to Sharon Briggs and Aisling Smith from Bray, who had a similar story to tell.
So Sharon, you had received several letters from the social welfare about this card, and then what happened a few weeks ago then?
Well, a few weeks ago, what I received, which I believed was a kind of final demand, forced me to go and get the PSC card. And they stated that if I didn't go to this appointment, that my welfare will be affected. So, subsequently to that, a few days later, I went to collect my payment on the Monday, and the lady in the post office informed me my payment wasn't there. So it happened to a friend of mine as well at the same time. So we decided together we would go down to the welfare office and approach the local officer and find out more about this. We had both had the same concerns and worries over the PSC card, and we wanted those questions answered. Now, I had already written to the welfare a year before, and I stressed the list of concerns about this card, which they never responded to. So we went down on the Monday, and the lady there informed us that she was a local officer, and she informed us that our money hadn't been stopped and it had been transferred. So we questioned to where was it transferred, and she told us to General Post Office in Bray, because we both get it in smaller sub-post offices, and we thought that was very deceiving, and we questioned to when were they going to notify us it was sitting in the General Post Office, which she didn't have an answer for. So we were able to collect our money eventually after the meeting we had with her, and we also said that we would email her in the list of questions that we were asking her that she could not answer. The fact about who this company Safe was, were they private, were they public, what was going to happen to this data, what other data will be added onto it, was it a form of identification, because they're stating this kind of, it's not an identification card, but yet you have to have it and produce it to get a passport. I mean, this is really downgrading the passport as a form of identification when you're having to show a PSC card before you get a passport. So, and even for the driving theory test, they're bringing that in, and they're talking about other services, health and so forth. This is just, they're expanding it month and month and month. Everything's been added to it monthly. So.
And did you said that you asked questions of the lady in the social welfare that you met, and you had also previously posted in questions about the card, and you didn't receive any response to either of those?
No,
did you?
Because the letters they're sending out, they're signed. They're not signed by anyone. They state at the bottom it's from the local officer, but they're not signed by anyone. And the heading on the letter is this wording, SAFE, S-A-F-E. I mean, I don't think it's safe, and I don't trust that word safe, but I actually had to question and challenge it, because I do have major concerns about it. As I say, you've only got one face, and you have to protect it. This is about protecting myself. It's not about I have something to hide. I have nothing to hide. I'm just trying to protect myself from, I say, this kind of technology that's coming down the road, and we don't know what kind of technology is coming down the road into this country, and how they're going to use this data with that technology in the future. I don't have problems accessing any services. I don't have problems accessing my welfare, health services, or anything else that are getting on public transport. So I don't see this card as going to ease that process for me. It's not going to make a slightest bit of difference.
And I assume that you had provided identification before when you collected your social welfare.
Yeah. It's one of the things I did state to this young local officer who we did get to speak to on the Monday, that they know who I am. I've presented myself to them time and time again. I've given them all the required paperwork that they accept as of who I am, and believe that the paperwork I'm giving them relates to me, the person, in person. So they do know who I am, and that's, I don't know why they're kind of saying that I have to give a passport now to get this PSC card, or I have to give a birth cert and other stuff they want off you. But I mean, my passport's expired. So for me to get a passport, I'm going to have to get a PSC card to get a passport, to give them my identification. So I can't process it at the moment because I don't have a passport of who I am. So I need to get a PSC card, which they won't give me unless I produce maybe a passport. It's just crazy the way they're going about this. But it is a big concern. I say one of the biggest worries is it's going to be an identification card, and that it'll be something that I would have to carry with me all day. I don't have to carry identification at the moment. I don't have to carry my passport. I don't even have to carry my driver's license.
And just, they're claiming that this is a voluntary card, that it is not compulsory for every citizen to have this card. However, you do need to have it to access public services, and they are bringing in further services that are where you're required to have this card. So they're saying that it is voluntary.
Yeah, it's voluntary by force, I suppose, is the word. They're playing with these. They say the card, they're using the word mandatory. It's not compulsory, but it's a fine line in between the two. Mandatory can mean compulsory and so forth. So they're just playing with those words. They're really saying, no, you don't have to have this card, but you have to have it, or else, you know. So, I mean, it is being brought in by stealth, and it's been forced on people. And it's a big worry. And
you've mentioned the worries that you have about data protection and where this is going down the line. But do you think that there's other issues with these cards and how they're being rolled out?
Yeah. I mean, they're being very opaque about the whole thing, and even the way the social protection, the laws that are there, it's very opaque about what the minister can and cannot do. I don't think there's anything he cannot do. It's about what he can do. And as you say, what you see on the card, the details you're seeing with your eyes is not what's behind on that microchip that's on it.
And you decided that you didn't want to get this card. And do you feel that there was a lot of pressure on you to go and get the card?
It wasn't so much I felt so much pressure. I felt that it was something that I was going to be forced to do, even though they were saying it was an invitation. I just knew that I'm not being invited. I don't have a choice. So while all that is still there, and it's very blasé, you know, very pale in what they're saying, I had to challenge it.
It is still unclear how many government departments and organisations will have access to the information held on the public service cards.
So Aisling, you have some concerns about this card yourself, and what would be the main concerns that you have?
My main concern is the legislative framework. I'm not convinced that there won't be additions to this card in the future. The Social Welfare and Pensions Act of 2010 contains some worrying amendments. Both specifically say that such other information will be inscribed and contained on the card as prescribed by the Minister.
So that basically means that the Minister can add to the list of things that will be on this card whenever.
Yeah, he or she can increase the range of services and the applications of the card. And to me, because it's so vague, that is very worrying.
And I know that there are others who've mentioned these kind of concerns as well.
That's right. Digital Rights Ireland are very concerned about it, as are the Irish Council of Civil Liberties, and there is a solicitor, McGarr Solicitors. Their website is very informative, and they have outlined their concerns in a lot of detail.
And they're particularly concerned about data protection and the legislative framework around this.
Yes, the legislative framework is not robust enough, and we need a public debate about this. And if these cards are going to be brought in, which the government seem hell-bent on, we need to have a public debate, and we need to construct a robust legislative framework.
Because in Britain they attempted to bring this in 2006.
That's right.
And that was specific legislation to deal with the setting up of a database, to deal with exactly, I mean, it was repealed in the end and scrapped because there was so much opposition to it. And do you think that that has had an impact on how the Irish government are trying to do this?
I think the Irish government have used what didn't work, and they've tried to introduce the same methodology but by stealth. And they're using an obfuscation of words between compulsory and mandatory